Everyone's like, Kimber, could you help me let people in?
Yeah, did you give me, do I have moderator?
Oh, thank you. There we go. Yep, you are now. Waiting room. Admit all. I'm going to just turn the waiting room off now.
Okay. I'm going to go grab more coffee really quick.
Sounds good.
If I can also plug in my headphones. Struggle bus. Hold on.
Good morning, everyone. So we were, it's the first event of the day. I'm glad to see we have 13 people in the room right now. I'm impressed. I'm impressed to have this early. So while we're waiting for some more people to roll in, let's go ahead and do this introduction activity. I've already kind of plotted it out here, but so I'm Poppe Guthrie, and I run Indy Design Week with a board, a bunch of people help. And co-presenting today with Mo and Matt, and I'll let you guys introduce yourselves as well.
Yeah, I'm Matt Mosier. I'm the senior manager in the City of Indianapolis Office of Sustainability. So I work on programs like the No Zone program and more recently the Electric Vehicle Education Outreach Program, which we hope to launch hopefully this month.
It's exciting. Will you be able to send me a link that I can post for people to, keep in on what's going on with that?
Sure.
And then Matt, if you want to go ahead and pick an emoji for yourself, drop it on here, and then comment with some stuff. That'll be how we introduce ourselves. We're not all going to go around the room at this point, but I do want Matt and Mo to introduce themselves. Mo, you're up.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Mo McReynolds. I'm the Community Engagement Officer with the Office of Sustainability for the City of Indianapolis. Most of my work consists of this sort of thing, bringing together stakeholders to accomplish all of the many works that are outlined in Thrive. And we're so excited to share all this with you this morning.
So if everyone could go ahead and pick an emoji that speaks to you today and drop it on this board. You can copy this. If you're not familiar with Miro, you can click and alt and drag and to copy something, or copy paste like you would in any other editing tool. If you need to move around the board, if you're on a mouse, like if you're using a mouse, you can use your scroll pad to control things, and hit the space bar to move around as well. And then you can comment on your emoji, and it's really cool. I think it's cool. The comment will attach to your emoji and move around with you. This is just to get you a little bit more familiar with Miro. How the workshop's going to go today is, after this activity, going to pass it off to Mo and Matt, and they'll tell you a little bit more about Thrive and what we're doing today. Everything today is centering around resilience hubs and how we might make a community-centered space that helps people prepare for now and the future. But we'll get into more of that. Who is this cowboy? Oh yes, Brant is the Oni. I chose a tornado today because that's how I'm feeling, is like a whirlwind.
I'm the cowboy cheeser. I couldn't figure out how to turn the microphone on, but Taylor.
Oh, right. So quick overview of butter. We are testing this out. It just seemed to be like this nice all-inclusive space for us. All of your controls are in the upper left-hand corner. So, well, not all of them, but there you can turn your mic on and off. You can also hit the M on your keyboard to mute and unmute. So just nice hotkey there. And you can also turn your video on and off in that box in the upper left-hand corner underneath the tab of butter. And then below that, there are some interactive features. You can, send up an emoji, like a reaction. You can say, hey, I have a question, and you can just say that you have a question, and we can, it's an easy way for us to know you want to talk to us, right? All right, I want to zoom in here. There's what is this one? There's a lot of little emojis here. And I feel like I'm like uncovering, I want to bring everyone to me again so you can see what I'm doing. It's like I'm uncovering all these emojis right here. Oh my goodness, they're just like...
I think I'm just figuring out how to use this, but...
Oh man, this is great. I feel like I'm uncovering like a matryoshka, and I'm just like, what? How do I get to the middle? Okay, I love whoever did this. Is there more? There's still more. Okay, we made it to the end. That was fun. Okay, so without further ado, I'm gonna pass it off to Mo and Matt to tell us more about Thrive. So Mo, you can go ahead and just share your screen and present that way. It'll take it over. There we go. Oh, wow. We're also testing out this record feature. So. There we go.
I was making sure I could share and unmute myself, but I can do that.
I can also unmute you if that helps. Okay.
You're just all going to see yourselves in triplicate like that. Okay. Here we go. Okay. So good morning, all. Thank you again for joining us. This is very exciting. We're very excited to share so much of our work, or this little piece of our work with you, and then the overall Thrive plan. So as we said, I'm Mo. He's Matt. I use she, her pronouns. He used he and his pronouns. We are part of the Office of Sustainability, which is an office within the Department of Public Works in the city of Indianapolis. We have been around for quite a while, but you kind of don't know we exist sometimes. So we're excited to get out in the public and get in front of more residents. I'm going to go back to our title screen here for a second to share with you that Thrive Indianapolis is the core of all of our work. It was developed in February 2018, finalized in February 2018. It is 59 action items, all that level up to the greater resiliency and sustainability of Indianapolis, making it a better place to live and work, making it a healthy, happier place to be. The American Cities Climate Challenge is an initiative that we participated in, sponsored by Bloomberg Philanthropies, that allowed us to leverage some of that work. So we're going to reference that in the future here. This is kind of the best view of what Thrive looks like in a visual sense. And I know we tried to add as many design elements as we can to this. Obviously, we're talking to Indy Design Week. We want to do as much of that as we can. I have to acknowledge, thank you to Indy Design Week for making sustainability your theme. It is obviously close to our hearts. It's the reason why we get to speak to you today, and I'm glad you see it as a worthy theme to discuss for your entire week. While sustainability is the theme of this week, and it is one of the themes of our Thrive Indianapolis plan, the other side we have to add to it is resiliency. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about in this workshop. Sustainability focuses on the actual programs. How do we use our resources better? How do we make sure we can make lasting, we can make sure our environment lasts? How can we make sure all of those things continue on to allow for the length of, however long we need to exist here? And the resiliency has to do with the quality of life of the residents. So those two things really have to go hand in hand, or else one is sort of negated by the other. These 8 themes here that you'll see: natural resources, food and agriculture, energy, economy, transportation and land use, public health and safety, built environment, and waste and recycling, are the 8 different thrives in which our 59 action items exist. And then one of those that we're focusing in on today is the Resilience Hub. So I'm going to pass it off to Matt, who's going to talk a little bit more specifically about that.
Unmute myself so you can hear me. So our big idea was, part of this was a resilience hub. And really, when we talked about the resilience hub, we really wanted a place within a neighborhood that people could go to get essential resources before, during, and after a natural disaster. So it would be a one-stop shop for everything that community needed. And so the way we had, when we looked at Thrive, within Thrive is a vulnerability assessment, and you can go to the next slide. We did a vulnerability assessment within Thrive, and basically what that did is it took 12 social economic factors, and it ranked those by individual census tract. About 6 of those 12, what we found out, vulnerability is probably most closely related to poverty. And so we created this kind of a heat map that shows our most vulnerable census tracts or communities. And we used that map to help us identify places where we could potentially pilot a resilience hub. You can go to the next slide. And so one of the things that we did, instead of trying to figure out what a specific neighborhood needed, we actually decided to go to the neighborhood and ask the residents what they felt like they needed the most. And so we had a listening session back in 2019 in the Martindale Brightwood neighborhood. And we took a bunch of services, 61 potential services, and we basically asked those residents, what do you need the most? And so they identified 36 of those services. And we later came back just more recently and did a survey to that same neighborhood. And we said, okay, you have 36 services. Rank the top 5, or give us your highest priority services. And so we just recently got the feedback from that latest survey. And what they identified was things like wellness screenings or preventative care, which included dental, educational grants. They also requested an emergency shelter for heating and cooling, and professional development opportunities and counseling for emotional wellness and health. And so that's basically where we're currently at with the research that we've done with this Resilience Hub. Some of the next steps include looking at our internal capacity to see, what we can offer in terms of staffing and things like that. So even though we've been kind of developing this hub over a period of time, there's still quite a bit of work to do. And we would love to hear your input, ideas, suggestions as we go forward with this.
Yeah, I will add the reason why we chose Martindale Brightwood was because it was one of the areas that we referred to in our social vulnerability assessment that fit the profile of an area in one of these hottest, most vulnerable spots, to Matt's point, laying over those 12 socioeconomic factors. That was one of the priority areas. It was chosen for a number of reasons, but it wasn't chosen based off political reasons. So many of our decisions, especially when it has to do with equity decisions, making investments in different neighborhoods, it's data-based. And that's why this social vulnerability assessment is so impactful and important, specifically when we're talking about things like all of these different services that people in our community are requesting. So we don't have anything else to present. We hope to give you the most brief overview here so that we can, don't know how to stop sharing. There we go. So that we can just open that up. We didn't want to introduce too much to you so that you didn't have too many preconceived notions about what we think this is. We have done our own ideation and a number of different exercises that will continue to form this for us. And this opportunity to speak with your group and lay all these wonderful design minds onto this particular initiative is very valuable. So we're very excited as to what we think we're going to come up with today.
Yeah, so then that is my cue to bring you all to me. I literally brought everyone to me in Miro. So I want to talk a little bit about the Martindale Brightwood neighborhood profile, and then how we might understand what it is like to experience poverty and who those affected are most likely to be, so that we can go through this activity with a design mindset, thinking like as empathetic as we can be without actually talking to people in this moment. So we're also, Mo and Matt, their team has already talked to the community. So a lot of this is research informed. I mean, all of it's research informed. So our activity is less research informed. We're doing the secondary right now. So the neighborhood profile has a poverty rate of 37%, which is 17% higher than the rest of the city. And there's a significant unemployment rate. Housing cost is really high. There's actually, can you explain the food access 75% here?
Yeah, that has to do with the the literal proximity of good food, grocery stores, etc., not just restaurants. Like a dollar store does not qualify as a grocery store.
Right.
There are a number of different factors that contribute to that, but essentially access to fresh, healthy food.
Okay. And it's a little bit more walkable than the rest of the city. There are more people receiving public assistance than the rest of the city. And the percentage of students with access to quality schools is much lower and than the rest of the city. So this is an overview of the area that we're thinking of. The resilience hub could be like whatever we come up with today could be implanted in other areas of the city. Neighborhoods might play a part into that, but we're not necessarily considering that right now. We want to think about who we're trying to serve in a general sense, general specific, right? But then also trying to think of, we'll be imagining on the services and what how that service might take shape and what that might feel like. So to give you an overview of the faces of poverty, this is based off of 2018 census information as it was coming in, and the number one demographic to experience poverty are single recent mothers. Of single recent mothers, almost half of them are experiencing poverty. And what that means is not only are we concerned about the mother and their safety and well-being, but also the child, because the number 8 highest demographic is children under 5. And I think children sometimes are underrepresented as an impoverished group, and maybe underserved in some ways. So I don't want to go through all of these right now. I want us to get to the activity. I want you to just scan through them yourself to gain some understanding of who we might be serving, right? So single recent mothers, people that are unemployed, people with disabilities, non-citizen immigrants. So there might be a large subset within the I don't know how, like, the percentage of non-English speakers in Martindale, Brightwood. I'm guessing there's a significant portion, and a resilience hub would need to be accessible to that group, for instance. Are there any questions at this point? Just kind of giving an overview of who we're talking about, who we're targeting with what we're thinking about today.
I will add that the profiles here are so accurate, especially of the 12 socioeconomic factors that we considered in our social vulnerability index. So those things align really well.
Okay. So the vision of the Resilience Hub is to be the centralized resource center, providing services to the community. Oh, what are the boundaries?
It's a good question. The Martindale Brightwood area, while I'm not familiar with the exact, Matt, do you know the exact street boundaries? We can describe the area in the position of town.
No, I don't, but I can get that real quick.
So it's on the, what you would call kind of the near northeast side, in between 38th Street to the north, or maybe 42nd, 46th Street to the north, maybe down to like 30th Street to the south, going farther east, you're maybe out to Post, or maybe a little bit further in, and then from the west, you're maybe at like Keystone. So it's an area that's been redlined historically. It's an area that's had involvement and cuts through with the highway. It's suffered all the same things of some of the most disinvested, abused Black and brown communities of our area, because of all the historic ways that institutional racism has played into those, that have led to so many of these different factors playing a part in that overall neighborhood.
So I placed a little boundary here on the map and dropped a pin so you can see it in this infographic here. So going back to what the Resilience Hub is going to be, it's a resource center. The number one thing that the community said, like 100% of them said that they wanted a community safe space. So we can interpret that in a lot of different ways. Safety, if we think about Maslow's hierarchy, there's like there's physical safety and there's psychological safety. And those are two things. If you're experiencing poverty, if you're living from now to now and your basic needs aren't met, you're going to be a lot more stressed out, and doing things that will help you get out of your situation or improve your situation are going to be even more challenging. So that's something to consider here. Like, it's not just, I want you to, again, try to empathize with people. We'll use these profiles in our activity, as long as you can relate to them closely enough, but just keeping them in mind that they're going to be stressed. They might not have access to technology. They might be working more than one job, or they might be unemployed. Like there's all these different factors that add to the stress and limit their access to resources as well. So another issue is that in these areas that are some of what did you call them, like in our high impact, the area, the highest vulnerable areas, they have a feeling of disconnection. So there's a sense of community that isn't there, and we're hoping that this resilience hub can also provide that, and be a safe space and allow the community to be empowered to help one another and help themselves. And here's like a little sketch note of what I didn't do. This sketch note, I found it. The artist is down there. His name's Jim Nutty. And this is just an idea of another resilience hub and how that might manifest. So I want to just kind of dive into our activity. And I'll set a timer for this as well. We're at 11:03. Okay, so we have about an hour left, and that's perfect because we have 3 activities to do. And if you don't want to participate in the breakout, I don't know, maybe try. Maybe just try, because we you could also leave. It's fine. But so the services from the community workshop that they did I've outlined them here and grouped them in kind of these different categories. So there's the category of just safety, whether that's safety from addiction or an emergency or domestic violence. It's basic safety. And then there's health and wellness. So things like counseling and emotional health, STD testing, and wellness screenings. And then, food access. So like a food bank or a soup kitchen. And these are color coded based on the percentage of the community that said that this would be a valuable resource. Then career advancement. So things like prepping for an interview, gaining new skills, getting your high school diploma, finding out about job opportunities, or transitioning into the workforce, or getting trade training or tutoring to get your GED. All of those things fit into this career advancement bucket. Childcare access is a big one. If you're working 2 or 3 jobs, having after school care is hard. If you're in that single recent mother category, accessible daycare services are going to be huge because there's not a partner to help you. You might have to rely on family. And all of these things get expensive. So having access to that matters. And then civic support is this last category of voter registration and access being highly valuable to the community, access to assistance, and then also grants and scholarships. We don't need to you're going to dive into what shape these services might take in your activity. So this is just a starting point for everyone. So the next activity is, interesting. I don't know how that happened. I'll just fix it now. Is mashing it up. So I want to form groups. Let's see, there are 13 of us. And I'm going to just randomly, so let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 3. I guess we could have 3 3 groups of 4 and 1 group of 5. And so then all of the facilitators can be in, we can all share a group. How did that happen? I just don't understand. Oh, well, okay. That's not what I want to do. I'm trying to make circles here that we can just all go into. Dun, 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 dun. So there's this circle. So this will be like group 1. So we can self-organize here. You can hover in a circle to form your group until everyone is in. Does that make sense? So there's a purple, I guess that's not color accessible here. I'll make this one bright red. Okay. Great. So I guess I can't see everyone's names. Darn. I was hoping that the flat, like our little arrows would just work. They kind of work, but everyone's a guest. So why don't you
just type our name and the drop our type?
Right, just type your name and then I can add you into the groups. And you can type by hitting T. You can also Control Z to undo anything you've done on accident. And then you have access to, increasing the size of things. Hello, Tommy. Okay, yes. You have access to other fonts and colors, and then this is how we'll form our groups. Great. Nice. And then I guess I can lock these circles so that you go. Okay. All right. Well, I guess I want to unlock them so that you can move your group to your area. And if I would have been really clever, I would have had us just reuse our emojis, but I forgot to do that. So that would have been a way to reuse it. And this will be the mashup. Okay, so we'll take our group and I'm going to take my group here and move it to one of these lines. So you'll see to the right, there's big blue network. Just place it right beside, and that'll be your group's workspace for the rest of the workshop. So I can help you. Just on we go. There we go. And then I'll take this one. And then there we go. Great. So now I'll create 3 breakout rooms and you guys can have a conversation. So the first activity you'll need to do is to pick 2 services from different buckets. So I'm not going to dictate what our group does. I'm just going to pull for an example. So I'm going to pull an emergency shelter as one, and then maybe accessible, actually, whatever, it doesn't matter. This is an example. Accessible daycare services. So then from there, we would imagine what would the name of that service be? So if it's an emergency shelter and it's a daycare, how might we name that? And then we would imagine how might that resource, like what would the result of that resource be? Like what might happen? So I'm just spitballing here. So if it's an emergency shelter, that's a daycare, direct result is that the kids there are taken care of in the case of an emergency, right? Another result would be that parents would know where their kids are, for instance, and you just try to think of a few direct results of this mashup, and then you'll branch out from those direct results. What might we not be thinking of? Like, what could be an indirect result from that? I know it's a little abstract, but so a direct result of having an emergency shelter that's also a daycare is that parents will know where their kids are in the case of an emergency, like a tornado. An indirect result would be there might not be enough space for other people at the shelter if all the parents and the children are there, for instance, right? That might be something that we didn't expect. Are there questions on this? This is a speculative foresight thinking tool, so it'll get easier with practice, I promise. No questions? All right, I'm gonna open up rooms. If I can figure out how to do that. Oh yes, this right here, breakouts, new breakout, create breakout rooms. I want 3, 1, 2, 3. And then can I let people figure out their names? So this will be for
Hey, Poppe.
mashup.
It might be easier to do the one where you let them just go between rooms and then just name each group what group you picked. That might be easy.
Do you want to set it up? I didn't practice doing the breakout.
I'm just going to say group 1, group 2, and 3. I guess what colors are they? Red, yellow. Is that right? I can't see them. I don't remember. And purple.
Yes. Green.
Green.
Wait.
So red, yellow, green.
There's red. Oh, I can't get out of here. Red, green, and purple.
Red, green, purple, green.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who can't distinguish these colors. Like, I thought it was yellow too.
Mo, you can just Control Z. Just keep on doing. I should have locked those. I'll do that now. I thought I did lock it, but looks like
now I think you can just pick your room. That'd be all right.
Sweet.
Maybe.
Okay, so you'll in the upper right, you'll see that breakout sessions have started. You can click on it and then go into the room where you're supposed to be. We'll reconvene in 10 minutes. No, 7 minutes.
I really like that feature of the breakout rooms that you can pick.
Yeah, that's nice. I wish we had. Can we pull up the Miro in our?
I have it.
Ooh, I'm gonna peek in to make sure that other people can pull up the Miro as well. We're supposed to have Delaney in here, so I don't know if I can. Oh, there she is. Okay. All right.
Do you have a moderator in each room?
I think so, but I don't know if they all can. So I'm gonna, I'll be back. Why don't you guys try to vote on or have a discussion on what services we want to mash up, and I'll be right back.
Okay, we're picking like 3.
We want to, yeah, we could pick 2 or 3. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hi there. I wanted to make sure that you had access to the board.
Thank you.
Yay.
That's probably a good idea.
Right. So Here it is, and just we'll reconvene in about 5 minutes. So you can pick 2 or 3 services to mash up and speculate from there. All right, I'm going to go to the other room to make sure that they're covered.
Sure. Thank you.
The services that we requested or that we talked about in the presentation.
Hey guys, I just wanted to make sure you were all set. It looks like the board's already up, and you can mash up 2 or 3 services to speculate from there on what the results of that mashup would be, both directly and indirectly, and we'll reconvene in about 5 minutes.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
See you later.
So she said, the after school. No, it was the one you.
Shelter, accessible daycare.
I literally just grabbed them.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying in the example. I was trying to remember what you did during the example.
Yeah, I pulled them up from here. It was like an emergency shelter and a daycare. But we could do a quick feature of just voting. Oh no, can I do voting while I'm in this frame? That might be challenging.
Poll, we can do a poll.
Oh, let's do a poll. And pick the top 2 services that you would want to see mashed up.
Open-ended poll question. What's our question?
What services do you want to mash?
Voting, start poll.
Oh, poop.
I gave it away. Oh man, that's awful.
Okay, we're gonna end poll. Let's just talk about it. Does anyone think what are some interesting mashups from your perspective? Going to just popcorn to Tommy. Put you on the spot.
Right. I think counseling and emotional mental health mixed with skill training.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I was thinking the same thing.
Really?
Skills training. Yeah, GD classes too. I mean, that's kind of the same thing. GD skills.
Great minds think alike, right?
Yeah.
Delaney, did you want to chime in? Oh my goodness, that's so funny. I think they already took it. So group 2 already took it. We can't. That's what they're doing.
It has to be different.
I think it is more beneficial if it's different. I think maybe.
What about food bank? What did we get?
And like a food bank with a skills, or food bank with wellness, or
that'd be cool, like a nutritional center, as something that focuses like nutritional, like wellness, food bank, possibly like emergency supplies as well.
Yeah, and then maybe also we kind of do this. What about these 3?
I can't see you. I should probably follow you.
Domestic violence resources.
Oh no, I brought everyone.
Look at us.
Sorry. Oh man, that's so funny.
Hey, but like you did bring me to you, so that worked. Can I just like click on your name and go like that takes me to
Yeah,
you?
you can click on. Oh man, I
don't even see your name.
This is so funny. Well, so when here, I can just put them on our board and we can imagine. There we go. Okay, so I think for the sake of time, we jam on this. How might we name this? Food Bank Wellness Safety Center.
Food, wellness, and
Domestic.
domestic violence, like safety.
The FWD. Let's make it all an acronym.
I mean, and that
Yeah.
stays in par with government, what the government does. FWD. DFW.
Nourishment Center.
There you go.
Okay, so then what's a direct result of mashing up these services?
Single mothers, like impact like newly single mothers trying to get away possibly from domestic violence, making sure that their families are fed and learning kind of how to make good nutritious meals, especially if they're not used to having access to like healthy foods, like they're used to just sugary junk foods because that's what they have access to. So kind of education.
Children. That's an indirect result of that one, is that children are cared for. Direct result of mashing this up. Let's see. So,
well, if it's wellness screenings and preventative care, possibly older people like on Medicaid or whatever might have access to like catch like health disease, like aging, the elderly like members of the community can have access to like make sure they're not having heart attacks or whatever.
Maybe unemployment, it looks like. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the...
So you think we could help tackle like a direct result of the food bank and wellness? It's so would be food bank wellness and domestic violence resources would indirectly help unemployment.
I mean, they're not using that money to buy food, and spending a lot of money. And it's like, maybe they're going out at, fast food, and fast food can be quite expensive because of those results. They have a fast food bank, they can use that money for other things, to pay for housing or stuff. But maybe that's not unemployment, right? I guess.
No, I think you're on to something. So if they don't have to use money to buy food as a direct result, the indirect result is that they could
possibly buy a car to get transportation to work, save money.
Right.
And that could, and like what he was saying, getting a job would be more of an indirect result of being able to purchase a car.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's actually funny. Me and my buddy, I went to Kinsey Academy, and we kind of did something like what we did with the Indigo bus and trying to make it more accessible for people in the downtown area.
Isn't there, I'm trying to think of what like are things that I've heard about, like dental care, like when your teeth are actually taken care of, like other things happen. And if we're providing dental care, I can't think of anything specific, but have you heard that? Like,
well,
when
it
your
helps
teeth are
with
nice?
your emotional wellness. So I think a direct result, well, it's kind of like an indirect result of having food access, and then also having basic wellness access, that your psychological and physical safety needs are taken care of, and you're able to present yourself better. Like, so with the teeth, you can smile, you can feel more presentable. You can actually eat foods and it doesn't cause you pain, things like that. Oops. Okay, so able to think about other things. Okay, I'm going to peek into.
It's getting hard. They might be kind of redundant.
Okay.
Multiple different resources
Hi,
that one
sorry,
could
I
access.
got pulled into
And these are
a
just
quick Zoom meeting, work related. So, back.
Okay. So I think let's just go ahead and let's delete the other ones that we didn't fill out because that's okay. It's just like
If you need to pop in, you can do that.
it's hard. Okay, I'm gonna just go.
You just want
everyone know
the
that we're
text though,
connected.
right?
Can we message everyone in the groups?
Yeah.
How do I do that?
How did I do that earlier?
Oh, here we go. I got it. All rooms.
Message.
Hey, y'all. Okay, I'm gonna end the breakout.
Are we back in the room? We've been pulled into the main room again?
Yes. I'm sure you felt like you needed a lot more time. I think I always get really ambitious with like, we can do all of these things collaboratively in a workshop. I hope that was not too challenging. It looks like I'm looking through everyone's and it looks like we've got stuff here. So with that being said, we're going to move on to the next activity, which is the social impact wheel. We are not going to get to all of these, clearly. These are here as just a guidance. You can delete whatever. I forgot to say that you can just delete whatever you don't use, but don't let the tool get in the way of getting your ideas out there. I loved that group too. Just like, hey, we're going to use Post-it notes. Super easy. Do that. The goal here is with the yellow, like the closer in the circle, the lowest amount of impact it has. So we really want to try to figure out like what are the high impact areas in these quadrants that pertain to social impact. So whether that's individual and community empowerment or community centric, or it's focusing on equality, or actually on the environment, these 4 quadrants can help us understand the social impact of what the service might entail. So don't feel pressured to get one high impact result in each quadrant. And then you can work from that high impact down to what, just work on down. We will spend, what's our time? I forget when we're actually over. I think we have some time. I think we could spend like 12 minutes doing this. I think that makes sense. Are there any questions?
Poppe, are we still using our 2 mashup ideas, or we are moving away from that and we are starting on a new frame?
Single thread, use the mashup ideas, and we're going to build out from that. And I guess we do have time for people to share their mashup ideas. I think. I don't know. I'm just worried about time.
It says 12:05 on our schedule here that we have until us. We have like 35 minutes.
Okay, we can take a little bit of a breath. I think we should share out. I'm sure you all voted for somebody to be the talker. I know you didn't. So I can speak for our group, and then maybe our co-presenters can just speak for each group since we're all in there, and then the next activity somebody else can try to speak. So for ours, we settled on a nourishment center, so thinking about a food bank, wellness screenings, and domestic violence resources. And some direct results that we were thinking, clearly having food access and basic wellness can, and not having to use that money to buy food, can help put that money towards other resources, can help them feel emotionally and physically safe. An indirect result is that the children might be cared for because single mothers experiencing domestic violence might be using this resource. We didn't get too far. It was challenging, right? But that's where we landed. We'll expand on this in the next activity. I'm going to pass it over to Mo's group.
Yeah, would someone else like to present, or I'm happy to?
Go for it.
Hearing none. Okay. We decided to mash up two things that I think are connected, but you don't necessarily always hear about being connected, which was voter registration and access and counseling and emotional mental health. The idea that those two things would be combined led to some interesting idea here. The idea of actual voter education, that if you need help making a decision, that would be helpful if you had emotional and mental health. There would be some more voting access, perhaps. The idea of more emotional mental health, meaning more voting. The more you have a well electorate, the better some of those people are able to make voting decisions. You might identify emotional and mental health advocates in politics this way. You might advocate for further resources in emotional mental health by politics, or people running for office might be involved. We also thought about, going up to the top here, you would understand what candidates care about emotional and mental health, and then knowing what different candidates stand for. We talked a little bit about also the physical space. What would it look like? Would voting and access and registration services be in a emotional mental health counseling center, or would it be the opposite? Or would it be both that would be helpful to be in each other's space?
Thank you for sharing. That's really interesting. And Matt's group.
Yeah, so we did talk. It seemed like the group focused more on jobs and daycare than anything else. We did go a little dark there. I did hear somebody mention child labor, which was kind of strange, but yeah, I was really happy to hear it. The group was really, I think, focused on the poverty aspect and trying to improve overall well-being in terms of, the cost of living challenges and things like that by looking at employment, job opportunities, and then the ability to provide daycare, after hours daycare and daycare in general. So, Carl, did you have anything additional to add?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. We were trying to look at both the positive and negative outcomes that might occur. So that's where things like underage labor violations came from. It was like, oh, well, we're going to find children jobs. It's like, nah, maybe not.
Yeah, that's a good point in thinking about the positive and negative outcomes. I should have said that in the beginning. All right, so thank you for sharing. So the next activity is really a how might we activity. So it's from this mashup, how might we make this space accomplish, for instance, how might this space that serves as a nourishment center for the community how might that support mental, physical, and financial health, and then work on from the impacts there. If we're thinking about empowerment, or how might we think about collaborative partnerships within the community with a service like this? How might that take shape? And that can be anything from a service perspective, from a physical space perspective, from an engagement plan. Those are all different ways to think about a solution. Like, this is a solutioning exercise. Like, how might we do this? Does that make sense? Okay. So I think we should go into our breakout rooms, and we'll spend another 12 minutes here, and we might get to have a little bit more, but I want to save some. Maybe let's do 15 minutes. Let's do 15. Okay. Right. Head on over to your breakout rooms. Oh, we have to open them, don't we?
Yeah, I think I can just start it again. Hold on.
Okay. I wish I had a way to play the butter music in Butter.
I figured it out. It was really easy to start it back up again.
Cool.
You should be able to do the same thing. Go to the same room.
Nice. See you later. Okay. I realized it. I needed to slow down. I was talking very quickly. So this is what we're doing. I don't have to drive. I would love the opportunity for Delaney or Tommy or Kimber, for any of you to put your ideas out there. Just because I'm leading the workshop doesn't mean I have to lead this session.
You have to do it all, Poppe. I'm just kidding.
So we can start by, I think it makes sense to start in this empowerment area and work around. From a nourishment center that's providing basic wellness and a safe space from domestic violence and food access, how might we imagine that encourages self-development?
I think, getting yourself out of an unhealthy relationship will definitely encourage women to focus on them and their children. And I don't really know. Should we write out? Do I just write that on a post note?
I'm just writing it.
Okay.
I guess this being like the first step towards building a better future is at this center.
Mm-hmm. Oh, getting out of an unsafe situation.
I guess, yeah, it's like fulfilling the most basic need, safety, and then
I wonder if we help provide them with legal aid, like if they have to get divorced and affording an attorney. Sometimes abusive guys can be, charming enough to, they still see the kids and things can happen. So how do we protect them legally?
Mm-hmm.
What does like the long-term care look like too?
We need to know more about that.
Yeah, so like, is it just a shelter where a woman leaves and they just kind of have a place to stay for a couple nights, or is it like, let's help develop, like get you a place to live, make sure that you're getting set up, and obviously abusive relationships take a while, so is it just a quick like come here and stay a night or two and then go back, or do you make sure that they don't return back to these relationships, provide ongoing support so they don't feel like they have to go back to these unsafe things? Because a lot of times women go back to abusers.
Right. So long-term ongoing support and a plan will help make sure that there's this self-development and that's encouraged.
Would that be like setting them up with other shelters that are for long-term, specifically for like single mothers in Indy?
Possibly like long-term housing, even still, not necessarily long-term shelters, but long-term housing. Even like sometimes like connecting them. Maybe we don't do education here, but neighboring either communities or other resources within that community that say, hey, like we provide job training so that you can be stable. But connecting them to all the other things that they need to be able to provide a safe, like ongoing safe situation for their children.
So having a partnership with tangential resources.
Yeah.
Because I know I like volunteered at more of an emergency shelter that also partners with like School on Wheels, so it has after school tutoring for free. And then there's like other shelters that are more, you're dealing with families that are there until they find new housings, and they specifically serve like single mothers or single parents and their kids.
How might
what about other
make this space so if like we're talking about this being a safe space with like we're not necessarily talking about housing them but providing resources to them or to connect them with other long-term housing or safe places and food access, how do we make this accessible to the community? How might the space take shape? What are some structures we need to consider for that?
I would say this is maybe more externally, but if there's not a bus stop around there that there should be, it should be easily accessible with public transit, I guess.
Probably work with other, like the schools in the neighborhood, other possible churches or childcare things, at least like have pamphlets and information so people know that it exists.
Oh, so there needs to be an engagement plan. And
kind of like the domestic hotline has pamphlets in every woman's bathroom stall.
I'm thinking about the physical space of the hub itself. So if we're providing these mashup of services, we'll need a clean space for food prep, right? That's separate from the reception area. I don't even know where that fits, so I'm just going to...
Is it like a food pantry, or are we providing hot meals for them?
It's food access. I mean, either way, we need to have some kind of separation of those areas. Or is it that there's a hangout space inside of the food bank, like the reception is in the center?
But it needs a physical location for sure then.
Maybe I was thinking about more of like a connection, kind of just like there's one building for the food pantry, but like kind of meant like having other single parents, like people that've been single mothers for a long time, mentoring, new single mothers and kind of like teaching them how to cook instead of like cooking it for them. But like, all right, this is how, you cook a meal in 10, 20 minutes, depending, what days what you're doing. So it kind of encourages, I feel like it connects with like encouraging self-development, support, mental and physical. It's like, hey, I'm asking someone to do this now. Like, they'll feel bad. Like, oh, I learned how to cook because of, this other single mother that's been through it, kind of doing it. I kind of just saw that in an article online like a while back of like, it was in Japan, but it's just like kind of like a housing for all single mothers, and all these like they have their own rooms, but they all hang out and like help each other out. I don't know if that's where if that's the idea or not. I'm just kind of
yeah. So by creating this connection of access to these domestic violence resources, we can allow them to have this opportunity in this space to help others, to maybe work in the pantry. Like maybe these could be actual jobs.
Right. Yeah.
So like in the physical space, if it is like in the same building and there's like multiple levels, there could be more of an open reception area with food being on the first level. And then there be a separate space for food prep, and then maybe kind of like a demo kitchen for that type of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, do people also live there?
I mean, we could probably have like a level up there where, we talked about long-term development, and it's like, if you really need help, finding a place to stay, we have a building like on the third level.
That has restricted access.
Yeah, like kind of like restricted access.
Like how most I was thinking when you were talking about like that, like prep kitchen, but like most apartment complexes have like that clubhouse where you could use, where that would be like
right
a space similar to that, where like you would be like, hey, let's have cooking classes, or other mothers can come mentor space,
hang out, instead of like feeling like they're the only like weirded out like single mothers. Like, well, I can hang out with this other single mother. We can they can talk, cook at the same time, like.
I also was thinking of like, if there's a second level for this interaction to occur, that there's like separate rooms, that I with building like modern buildings, I know there's like a lot of glass involved, but if there's more like privacy, it's a comfortable space with like inviting furniture. It doesn't feel like like a doctor's office.
I just feel like it just being more of like an apartment complex or something like that, where it's just like, oh, hey, you're you want to hang out and do do things this week or next week,
and
just,
have
like,
games,
yeah,
stuff for children to
do movie nights. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so second.
Do we have a timer? It's been 12 minutes, so we're doing things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we need like an office somewhere.
Yeah, I think that would be. I mean, and how do we make sure that, do we let men in this? A lot of women's shelters don't necessarily want other men to come. It's kind of secretive. Mm-hmm. You want to keep them safe because some guy, like they'll track them down.
Yeah.
My dad was a cop, and like he would talk about it, and he was like, these are like secret places like that we take women.
Huh. I don't know if this should house people, because it does need to be accessible to the entire community.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't say maybe just another building next to it. It's just like, oh, how,
They would
like,
still know. It's not
No.
secret then, right? There, it's like very findable.
mhm.
This would be more like a resource place, and then if they needed to put them, they would know which, like, hey, we'll like sneak you off to this place, because they would know, the workers would know those places, because those do exist already.
And that's how we can leverage connections. We don't necessarily have to provide all of the services. We have to be able to direct to all the services.
Kind of like a 211 hub.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that would be where the second floor, more private space, comes in. And the first floor is definitely more community, public.
Yeah, counseling could happen on the second floor. There might need to be like a secret access somewhere. Like, so that if you're in the community space, you're not everyone can see that you're going up to say get counseling.
Yeah.
We didn't really, so we touched on some of these things. I think from an environmental perspective, the easiest one is that we have a community garden to help provide the food. And then that
We're at 15
brings
minutes.
Huh?
We are at 15 minutes.
Yes. Okay, let's
So
close it up.
okay. I think we'll eventually go back.
Yeah.
You too.
Hi. Welcome back. I hope that one was a little easier. I started with the hard one first. And we were just so busy talking. Does somebody from our group want to give an overview of what we covered?
I can if nobody else wants to. I don't think anybody else cares. I'm still
I think
following
you should do it, Kimber.
Okay. Well, I can't. Hold on, I can't move the screen. Can you move us to our board, Poppe? I got it. Or you can move everybody to our board. But yeah, we talked about kind of like our space that we picked was a come back here, kind of like a food bank and a domestic violence and kind of wellness screening. So we talked about like what that space would look like. And we kind of decided that it would be best to be more of a resource hub to where we connect you to. We don't want to house domestic violence victims or something like that for safety and privacy concerns, but maybe a space to where we could connect you to other mentors, other have like cooking classes, counseling services, kind of a two-story building, one that has like the counseling and those kind of services have more of a hidden access point. But there can be autonomy is the word I'm looking for, to like who's going there and what services you're getting, and kind of how it impacts like long-term development and giving people like a plan to kind of make sure that people who are experiencing domestic violence relationships have like a long-term plan so they don't go back to these relationships, and then how we can mentor and provide food to kind of give like a safe, kind of have them feel safe, and so they can start accessing like jobs and education and kind of fulfilling other needs once they feel safe. Is there anything else?
Yeah, towards the end, we were talking about how this might manifest in a physical space. And it was really important for us to consider that there has to be, when you're doing sensitive when you're providing sensitive services like counseling or wellness, there needs to be some private space. And when you're also providing a public service for the community, such as food access, how might we separate those so that it's all inclusive and safe and welcoming? So we were thinking about how the first floor might feel more like a clubhouse. There could be this open kitchen and very like soft and warm like furniture, and the space just really needs to be really inviting on that first floor. And then the second floor or another building would be more of those private services with potentially even a non-publicly visible access point. So to maybe to guard people that are in dangerous situations. So that's where we landed, and I'm excited for the next activity. I'll pass it on to Mo's group.
Okay, so we went down a really interesting rabbit hole of thinking about how mental and emotional health services and voting access and education could actually lend to, I'm going to steal Haley's term, the regenerative system of people experiencing emotional mental issues, receiving that education, being more a part of the civic system overall, and not only voting, but then becoming candidates and becoming advocates and then becoming counselors, and the ways that that can continue to have social outputs and social impacts overall. That was a really, really interesting thing. We also talked about the overlay or the potential scenario of people experiencing homelessness who might be suffering from severe emotional and mental health issues that might not have any access to voter registration whatsoever. However, they would be completely viable registered electorate because they don't have an ID or they're not aware that they need an ID. Team, did I leave anything out? Is there anything else you guys want to add?
I think that mostly covered it.
Hey, just a time check. We have like 5 minutes until it's 12.
Yeah, I was about to message you. I was like, oh, okay, I guess we don't get to do the other activity, which was the mood boarding. So let's let group 3 present.
Well, group 3 has dropped to about half its members. I think two of us had to drop out.
Yeah, I think it's just Carl and I now, but
yeah,
I really liked the direction that our group was going. We talked about teen jobs, youth jobs, and YMC was mentioned, and I was thinking about an organization called Teamworks. And so I really liked the conversation or the idea around how that creates within itself community, friendships, and bonds. And then there was a suggestion of, since the neighborhood needs daycare, maybe you could employ the older to watch the younger kids, which is an interesting idea. And then somebody mentioned field trips to local employers, and that also creates kind of relationships and partnerships and those types of things. So I think the underlying message that I heard was creating community relationships and bonds and friendships as kind of an important theme. Carl, was there anything else?
No, I think you covered the things that I thought were most interesting as well.
Well, thank you all for your participation. Obviously, if we were doing this like to really design for it, we would spend an hour or more, maybe 2 hours on that speculative foresighting activity, maybe 2 to 3 hours on the social impact wheel, and then even expanding out to then start to design the space and the services themselves. But I hope that you were able to gain an overview of some of the work that the city's doing and engage with the conversation. I'm going to send you all a workshop feedback form. So I hope that you fill that out. Is there any lasting comments from anyone?
I want to squeeze in a big thank you to everyone who participated. This was so interesting to me. I hope it was beneficial to you also. To keep track of our office and everything we're doing with Thrive, please follow us on all social medias at Sustain Indy.
Nice. Okay, and then I have this workshop feedback form right now. Here it is. I'll drop it here in the chat, and I'll put it on the Miro board in the main room of the conference. So you all got here in the main room of the conference. I'll be linking out our Miro hub, so you'll have access to this recording, to the Miro board later, and notes